western frontier was settled with a philosophy of agricultural and urban development no different than in the lush Midwest. However, to make the arid landscapes of Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, and California flourish into the Eden that was envisioned depended on the water of just one river, the Colorado. With the Salton Sea flooding in the Imperial Valley in 1905, as well as increased needs for water and energy for California's rapidly growing irrigation and metropolitan districts, the interest group, the League of the Southwest, promoted massive reclamation projects that would compromise water rights upstream. To avoid costly, endless litigation and create a more equitable development of the Colorado River Basin, Attorney Delph Carpenter proposed the Colorado River Compact, the first interstate treaty of its kind to apportion water among states. Although flawed, this compact became the cornerstone of Western water policy, crossing a legislative frontier and changing the course of the natural resource management, populations, and environment of the river basin into the 21st century. Starting with Californian miners, pioneers of the Southwest adapted to the dry climate by creating a water rights system to manage uncertain flows. They developed the prior appropriation doctrine, which became a first-in-time, first-in-right system in determining claims. By the 1900s, the League of the Southwest backed lofty goals to get the region on par with the rest of the nation, and to become the greatest empire on Earth. Members looked to harness the mighty Colorado River as the best means to achieve these goals. To overcome the obstacle of interstate cooperation in water development, Delph Carpenter called on Article 6 of the Constitution, proposing a novel treaty that would create a groundwork for state uses while avoiding litigation. This ingenuity inspired the League and Congress, earning resounding approval to form a commission in 1921 for the states to collectively take control of their hydrologic future. The Colorado River Commission met throughout 1922. Composed of Secretary of Commerce Herbert Hoover, Reclamation Service Director Arthur Davis, and a representative from each basin state, the men set out to determine policy that would shape the West for a century. While some had extensive knowledge of the river, others such as California's W.F. McClure were said to have never known there was a Colorado River. In addition to varying degrees of riparian understanding, considering the Colorado River Basin as a whole was a new approach. In early meetings, colored by place-based thinking, allotments were considered by each state's apparent need, causing a stalemate in negotiations. In June 1922, the Supreme Court case Wyoming v. Colorado established the validity of the prior appropriation doctrine across state lines. This national precedent hastened upstream states' needs for a compact, since litigation would favor faster-growing states without one. In November 1922, at Bishop's Lodge in Santa Fe, Carpenter brought a new proposal to end the stalemate. By dividing the river basin into two sections, upper and lower, the precedent would be valid only within each basin, not across them. With this breakthrough, the compact was signed at the governor's palace, establishing development as the first priority of water use. Carpenter declared at its signing, "We've completed the task assigned to this commission, which is the first exemplification of interstate diplomacy in the history of the United States on such large a scale." Development of the Colorado next hinged on ratification of the pact, and while state legislatures in California and Arizona struggled for approval, upper basin states passed a resolution to oppose any development until the compact was law.
Congress responded in 1928, passed the Boulder Canyon Project Act, authorizing construction of Hoover Dam to control and regulate the Colorado River, and the All-American Canal System to deliver water to farmlands on the lower river.
The act confirmed a 6-state ratification of the pact, establishing the river as a new frontier where transformative engineering would divert and dam the strength of the stream to become a pipeline for development, including across the Mississippi, where the precedent would influence the future Tennessee Valley Authority. As Hoover commented, "The days of the romance of the West are gone, and the job of the Western man is one of construction." With a decision so unprecedented and contested, some key issues were not addressed, foreshadowing future problems. The compact's neglect of Mexican and Native American water rights and reliance on manufactured science shaped the basis of Western water law. Mexican attempts at diplomacy to secure stream rights for their irrigable land were ignored in 1921 by denying inclusion of Mexican representatives in the commission, and again when Mexico's president Alvaro Obregón sent scouts to the 1922 public negotiations. The compact-approved All-American Canal was the culmination of persistent shunning of Mexican needs, which routed water to the Imperial Valley without crossing the international border to keep, quote, American water on American land. An allocation was not awarded until Arizona's ratification of the pact with the 1944 Mexican Water Treaty. Characteristic of the imperialist period, the only mention of the 29 federally recognized tribes in the basin was Hoover's Wild Indian article. It was an intentional choice to neglect the tribal water rights promised in the 1908 Winters versus United States case, and left the people with generations of history along the river subject to costly and ongoing litigation to have their rights realized. The compact was a test case on how to incorporate data into large-scale government decisions, representative of the scientific movement of the progressive era that applied data analysis to natural resource management. However, a gap arose in how to actually implement this strategy, and science was used to confirm, rather than inform, decisions. USGS scientist E.C. LaRue had extensive experience on the river. His 1916 report, Water Supply Paper 395, revealed with paleoclimate reconstructions that long and frequent droughts were a significant hydrologic feature of the Colorado. This informed his stance that the river could not support all of the development that many claimed it could. However, while water was lacking, ambition was not, and delegates brushed aside LaRue's direct warnings to use the Fall-Davis Report of 1920, a document full of erroneous, inflated calculations of the river's flow that was never intended to serve as a hydrologic basis for water allocations.
What LaRue was saying would have made it difficult for them to move their political and economic development project forward. And so they ignored it, and they kept him away from the process in favor of Arthur Powell Davis, the head of the Reclamation Service, who told him what they wanted to hear, that there was plenty of water.
As the basis of the law of the river, the compact caused a metamorphosis just as the League envisioned. Booming urban growth, hydroelectric power lighting up homes, and thriving agricultural empires in the desert. However, by the mid-20th century, it became clear that the compact caused an environmental frontier to be crossed as well. 1940s and 1970s triggering analysis confirmed LaRue's estimates, proving that fixed allocations caused a structural deficit in the river by nearly 30%. The legacy of conservation, or not letting a drop flow downstream, has caused water rights to supersede the rights of the river itself and the living things within it. Numerous riparian organisms are endangered, while reservoirs cover geologically unique and culturally significant land. The once raging, silty, warm flows are now cold and clear beyond the dam spillways, and stagnant at the mouth of canals. Policy was able to tame and subdue the power of the river, out of fear of its innate strength and out of self-interest for survival in the desert.
One of the things I think that we're really wrestling with now is sort of this frontier development mentality in this Western, white settler colonial model has continued to extract a really significant toll on ecosystems in which these things are happening. And for a long time, because the North American continent was really a very bountiful place, the impacts of those things weren't felt. And between what we've done with climate change and what we've done with a century of intensive agricultural and industrial development of the West has really brought us to this point that even if we wanted to ask the things of the system that we've asked for the past century, the system can't really produce them anymore.
These effects have become recently visible with the critically dropping reservoir levels at Lakes Meade and Powell, threatening the compact's goals of power generation. And at the Colorado River Delta, where the biodiverse lagoons that flourished in 1922 have dried into desert now that the river no longer meets the sea.
As we traveled across Lake Powell last October, the bathtub ring, that white band is really high. And so it feels like, you're traveling through a fallen civilization almost, except we are the fallen civilization. It feels like you're watching your own demise.
Protections such as the Endangered Species Act of 1973 or the 2007 Interim Drought Guidelines have been tacked onto the compact. But the pact was not designed for these protections, and the legacy of the prior appropriation doctrine protects the old before it accepts the new. The river continues to drain. As the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change warns of record low flows due to aridification, and the US government calls the first water shortages, awareness around the hydrologic reality of the basin is changing. As the previously ignored stakeholders hold the 1922 Compact accountable, it becomes clear that while the Compact defined the value of river-based development, it is the way people manage water today that will define the basin community of the future. At its centennial, the Colorado River Compact is breaching a new frontier.